Good morning to one and all present here. Today we are discussing about sexual offenses like rape. So, rape in itself is a crime which is very no it is a crime which is a result of perverse mind. No, a very sadistic person, a person who gains pleasure in giving pain to others and some doing awkward or illogical things, or has a desire to behave in a way which is very unreasonable and unacceptable, and that leads him to a tendency in committing rape, which is very forcible and brutal. So rape, actually, it's a Latin, it comes from the Latin word rapio, which means to seize, that is to capture, that is to make somebody not move or to avoid its movement. So basically that's why it has been used uh, to define this offense, because it leads to taking away of a woman without her consent by force, fear or fraud, no and and not to have a sexual intercourse with her. So uh, it basically leads to a very unlawful intrusion to her privacy and sanctity of a female. It actually blows to her to a supreme honor and offend her self-esteem and dignity too. It actually leads to degradation, and it humiliates the victim to such an extent that it makes him degrade in her own eyes, and affects her honor, reputation, and leads to say to her chastity. So basically, rape is not something which is acceptable or very normal, and so to cover the criminals who actually do this act, we need to understand it in a very deep and better way. So to in courts, actually, to prove whether such a criminal act has actually taken place, two basic ingredients are required to prove any criminal act, that is basically the actus rea, that whether the act has actually been performed or not. And secondly, it's the mens rea, that what was the intention of the criminal, that he actually had the intention to commit it, he had a guilty mind, and he was and it was uh, uh, not something which was consensual, or not something which was done unintentionally. So to understand it in a more deep way, before 2013, if we go into its legality, uh, uh, anything rape was defined as a simple penetration to any extent, and in um, a simple penetration to any extent, and such divisions were not mentioned as we can see on the screen, like all these four divisions, like penetration of penis into the vagina, urethra, mouth, or no, if even this penetration doesn't take place, if there is an extent of inserting any other object or any other part of the body, like finger or a needle or a rod, or anything of that sort, or if you're trying to manipulate or trying to force the woman, and a part of her body like a hand or legs, so as to stop her movement or to overpower her. So, or a simple oral sex, like applying your mouth uh, into the private parts of the other person, or making her do so to somebody else. All these constitute uh, acts of rape. So if any of the one, because nowadays, like, if we know this law, even the criminals know it, so they find a way out to penalize them. It was very essential to segregate this act into some sections, and that's why we are studying it in such detail. And basically rape is always said to commit by a man in its definition itself. So if we find any female who is assisting in a rape attempt or is a part of a gang rape, she would never be no charged of a rape attempt. Instead, it would be she would be charged of abetment of rape, like she was a helper in the act. For example, there was a case in which the you know a kind of friend raped a girl, and his no her wife came at that very moment, and without actually realizing what actually happened, and instead of helping the girl, she came and slapped her. So she both the husband and wife were charged of rape, but here the court gave the verdict that she won't be charged for the rape because of the violence she committed, and it will be considered as an abetment to rape. So we coming to our second stage, our second ingredient of rape, which is known as the menstrua, uh, means where we can say that the a person had a guilty mind that such a sexual intercourse will take place if any of the following conditions are fulfilled. Then we can say that a criminal offense has actually taken place. So, firstly, is that the act has taken place against the will of the girl or the woman, or without her consent, uh, or even if a consent is taken, it is taken by force, fear, or death, and we will come to them one by one. Firstly, we are talking about against her will. So when an act is done against her will, it means that even if she was in a full possession of her senses and had reason and awareness of whatever is actually being done, and knew the consequences of the act, she is trying to object it and resist it, but due to overpowerness and due to more masculine strength of the male, which is undebatable here, she's unable to resist, and the act has been done forcefully against her. So whereas when we talk about against her consent, these are two similar things, seem to be similar but have a slight difference. Like for example, uh, if you want to go for a party and your father, you ask for his will, so even if he's not willing to send you, he's not going to give you his consent. But if you know uh, take his consent in regard to some condition, that you will not misbehave, or you will agree to his terms and conditions, or you will come on time back, or you will score well in the next exam, or it is the last party you wish to attend before exams, or anything of this sort, then you have taken his consent on the basis of some conditions, although he is not willing to do that act or to allow you to go to the party. Similarly, here, when uh, act, the girl is made to do an act without her consent, that is, her reasoning capacity has been impaired. She's been made to do it because of maybe there is some intoxication, maybe she's unaware of no in a, she is not able to make decision for oneself, she's in a unsounded mind stage, has been given a high dosage of drugs, or she's in a she's sleeping or anything of that sort. So uh, then we can say that the act has taken place without her consent. Uh, for example, in the cases as mentioned here, uh, I would like to discuss one case here, like in R versus William case, the girl was made to believe that she has to undergo a surgical operation to improve her singing voice, but no, a sexual intercourse act was taken place against her, and the accused was held of guilty of rape. So here the consent was taken because due to by fraud or by misrepresentation under some mistake. So there are even many other conditions where the consent of the girl is taken, uh, where there is a sexual intercourse on promise to marry. So in this, under this condition, here we need to prove that the promise to that the accused here, if we say that is been charged of rape, we need to prove here that that he didn't want to marry the person or the woman from the very starting stage, from the very beginning itself, and the whole act, the whole meetings and everything was done just to seduce her or to induce her to agree her to do that sexual act with him. So basically, if suppose you are not able to prove this fact, then the court believes that you both are major and you both are best judge of your decisions, and you are the best decision of your act. And if the act was being done, then it was being done no by your consent, because you know the fact that he's not your husband and he has just made a simple promise, or in future there's a probability you might not get married. And even after knowing all these things, so there is no misconception of fact, and even then you are agreeing and agreeing to that no act, then you can't say later that it was not consensual. So both the parties are being taken care of in this context, so that no one could blackmail the other later on. So the next point here is that when the consent is obtained on fear of death or hurt. Yeah, for example, sometimes the consent of a person is taken on fear of death of her or hurt of her loved ones. No, maybe you are not trying to hurt the lady herself, but you are trying to hurt some, maybe her child or her parents or her no husband, no, and then you force her to get to no to have a sexual intercourse with you. Uh, and then that consent has been taken, it's said to be taken forcefully, because if that fear would not have been, she would not have actually ever consented to do it. So uh, the next our condition is here is sexual intercourse with married women by accusing impersonating as her husband. So these conditions are basically seen uh, in lot many situations, even in present time, when uh, the person comes in dark, and the girl thinks that that the person who is actually there is supposed to be her husband, and she no agrees to uh, uh, undergo the sexual intercourse act with him on the basis of that fact, on believing that the said person is her husband, and whereas the person accused knows the fact but remains silent. So this shows that he has a guilty mind and he has wrong intentions, and hence he can be charged of rape. Or in conditions whereas no when the marriage has taken place, but it is void because some of the conditions have or the rituals have not been performed no properly or completely, and due to non-fulfillment of certain conditions, and consequently they are not considered to be legally husband and wife. So if the husband knew about this fact, and even after knowing it, he went to a sexual intercourse act with the lady, it will be considered as a rape against him. So our next point is when the consent procured of a woman of unsound mind or under influence of intoxication. So this is a very understood by the point in itself, that when the consent is taken of a person when he's not actually in his senses. Uh, for example, in Tulsidas Kanwar versus State of Goa case, uh, no, here the person has actually given his or her submission, but there is no willingness because actually he's not able to think properly, and his mind has been made uh, no, made indecisive, because of which he's not able to actually know the consequences or what actually is happening with her. So the main concept is that the act should be consensual, voluntary, and in a conscious state of mind. So none of the conditions actually satisfy here, so the accused will be charged of rape. And our second last point here comes when the consent is taken of a minor below 18 years of age. So anybody no below 18 year of age will be considered uh, will be charged of rape against if an act is done with a person who is below 18 years of age, because the court believes that such people, even if they have given their consent or of a will for the act, they are not mature enough to understand the consequences of the act, and they are not mature or enough to uh, take decisions for themselves related to it, and hence any such act will be considered as a rape, and their consent will be taken as immaterial. So even if there is a case where the age factor is not being clear, so the birth certificate will be taken as a valid conclusive proof for the age of the minor child, and not the medical record, because the medical reports are usually uh, are no varying from 2 to 3 years of age gap. So it might be 2 3 years above or below the actual age, so that can't be taken as a reliable source. So, and the last point comes when the act is done with somebody who is unable to communicate consent. So exactly it comes to a woman who is actually no in not a conscious state. Maybe she is in a vegetative state of mind where she is unaware of her surroundings, or can simply open or close her eyes, or she's in a hospital, or maybe somebody is roaming around on roads, or maybe is not mentally stable. So such people or are not able to communicate their consent, so any act done against them will be considered as rape. So since this leads us to our second point, which is the punishment for different kinds of such rape. So actually, for equality purpose, uh, rapes are basically seen to be majorly done by the people whom are known ones, people whom we trust. It is very rarely seen that somebody an outsider commits such acts, because if an outsider is supposed to commit an act, he will surely either will be a case like something like Nirbhaya or Priyanka Reddy's one, where there's kidnapping and then rape, and of course it will lead to a murder, so that she doesn't go out and complain, and their identity would be revealed. So and there is second clause where uh, that constitutes rape by people who are our own trustworthy people, who are educated, who are people who in authoritative or position of dominance, and our own loved ones or our own family members at times, uh, who even who even after knowing all these things commit such crimes. So such acts by them would be considered more heinous and more harmful for the society, because they are actually contaminating the society and not making it worthwhile living for everybody. So the punishment for both the conditions are different. So the ones who are not covered in clause 2, there's a punishment for a minimum sentence of 7 years of rigorous imprisonment, which may extend to imprisonment for life, or at times may lead to uh, complete imprisonment for the remaining years of their life, and shall be even liable for fine, and that fine will be used for the medical facilities and rehabilitation of the victims or her family. And the second part, it deals with other forms of rape. So it basically enumerates 14 situations, uh, which we'll be discussing one by one. So, firstly, it covers those kind of rapes where you are in actually custody of a person. Uh, actually, firstly, we will talk about by a police officer. Suppose if a girl is in custody, or she's a uh, no uh, has gone to a police station for some work, or maybe the police officer commits such crime against her or any of his subordinate who is within the limits of the station or any premises, like it was seen in Tukaram versus State of Maharashtra case. She was a 17-year-old girl who was found abducting, but later she came home. So when she went to the police station to report that she has reached her home, and the police officers asked her to stay there and asked the family members to go out of the police station, and seeing the girl, and they tried to force her and committed crime against her. So both the police officers were given severe punishment under this act uh, by the High Court, and so this case was much talked about back then. And similarly, we come when the rape is committed by a public servant. So it can be anybody who is in government service or in private, where by any subordinate, or when she is in custody, any police officer, any constable, or any person who is in authority will be governed under this, or any army force personnel. So it's difficult to believe that even army force personnel could commit such crimes. People who are considered as protectors of a nation could be, uh, could harm women. So there was one case, Joginder Singh versus State of Maharashtra, where there was an offense of rape committed by military personnel, and they were about some victims who were going in some bus, and the military personnel themselves raped them, and such cases were such high confidential, and um, that the victims themselves were found missing, and there was nobody in the courts when the case was taken into notice, who could come forward and complain against them. So such things actually happen in our society. So next comes where when there's a custodial rape by staff of jail of a remand home. So jail is actually not a good place to be at for anybody, even if you are a prisoner, or majority of the people in jail are under trial prisoners. Like in India, the cases go up to 7 years, 10 years, and uh, which leads to imprisonment of people even if they are not convicted, and they're up to 3 to 4 years, and spending such a long time in jail becomes very difficult for if anybody who's actually an innocent, or who is actually a trapped victim in himself. And to avoid rape against such people by inmates, by who are criminals, or women who are in custody, or by women staff who can be brutal to other women prisoners too. So the next comes when there's a rape committed by the management staff of a hospital. So this is very commonly seen that people usually go for some surgeries or some test, and it comes forward that by mistake, or by a misrepresentation of the fact that they are having some problem, and they have to undergo a surgery, and then a sexual act has been taken place against them. And so in all such cases, the accused are to be charged of rape. So next comes our category of rapes when there is by breach of trust. Firstly, it is by any relative, guardian, or teacher who are in position of trust or authority, your near and loved one, somebody in your family who is continuously trying to molest you, or may have ever been tried to misuse you. So people usually generally don't speak about it. So but all these our main motive here is to not to degrade or humiliate anybody, but to actually bring all such cases into notice, so that such hooligans may not even get they don't get more empowered, and they don't get encouraged, and so that it leaves a example for the society that anybody who tries to do any harm to any innocent woman or child would be punished harshly. And such acts don't take place, and then only crime can be eradicated from the society. So rape during communal or sectarian violence. So whenever there are communal riots or anything of the sort, any violence, women are considered as the vulnerable and the marginalized group, which are very feeble and easily attackable. So generally all sort of rapes are seen during such situations, which are not being reported, and there is no complaint, or even you can't even recognize actually the person or how. So to avoid so in such cases also, uh, the victims need to be rehabilitated, and compensations should be given to them, and that's why such rapes are even covered under it. So rape of a pregnant woman, the prosecution has to prove here that the uh, uh, rapist was actually aware of the fact that the woman was actually pregnant while he committed that crime. And rape of a woman under 16 years of age, this we have already talked, that even if uh, a girl of 16 years of age seems to be a girl who has attained puberty, and no, but her consent won't be taken into consideration, as uh, under the POSCO Act, it protects the children from all such sexual offences, and her consent would be considered immaterial here. And rapes when women are too feeble to resist. It comes to our last category of rapes when the woman is not capable of giving consent. That's again the same point when she's intoxicated or in unsoundness of mind, or she is not mentally stable or anything of that sort. And when raped by a man in a position of control or dominance, like in any organized or unorganized private or public sector, where your bosses may even try to find a person in maybe your colleague or anybody who try to allure you, or may try to uh, find favors by you, or try to disturb you by showing some indecent content or anything of that sort. So here you need to actually prove that if a rape has been committed, then the attempt of rape has actually taken place, and then the court will judge whether the um, attempt has passed the bar of commission, and it is actually a rape or a sexual assault. So it will be left on the court to decide uh, whether it's a rape or a sexual assault, and but these conditions or situations are being covered under it. So rape of a woman suffering from physical or mental disability. Um, yes, even if suppose a person tries to disrobe a woman, or you know, uh, you know, uh, is in the process of actually going for a sexual intercourse, or but actually gets seen, or by found or caught by somebody, and runs away. So when actual rape has not actually taken place, but the attempt, uh, it is proved that an attempt has been made, and the accused came with a guilty mind, and had an intention to commit it, then he might be charged, even if not of rape, then with a charge of attempt to rape under section 511 IPC. So rape with an intention of causing grievous body harm. Here we have mentioned maiming or disfiguring or endangering life of the woman. It's like like I've talked in initially, that uh, here the rapist or the accused person is a person with a sadistic mind. He gains pleasure by harming others. So maiming is something like when you are completely harming a body part to an extent that it is not in a condition to work again. So you are permanently damaging it, like maybe an eye or an arm, or it's like you are actually completely trying to harm or dishonor the body of the woman, and trying to disfigure her, or trying to your passion is so gratified that even if she is trying to resist, if it is not affecting the rapist, and he's completely trying to disfigure and try to show his aggression or frustration. And so all this acts when actually rape or the penetration has not taken place, but even if of anything of this sort has taken place, it would be considered under rape. And the lastly is the repeated rape by a man on the safe woman. If a person is a regular offender, then of course he will be imprisonment for rest of his life under this act. So um, thank you, and we have covered basically all the factors and which are governed and which can be considered for punishing a rapist. Thank you.